Ichigo Awakens by Talacha, Chapter 43, Failed Assault. Squad 15 base. So what are you looking at here, Hiyori? Lisa asked as her old comrade came out of the monitoring room to join the rest of the squad. With the arrival of the Rankar, Squad 15 was being sent out to assess the threat and damage control, data gathering for preparation against the next attack. 6 Rankar, one is clearly in the range of the 2 that came before, and the other 5 are far weaker. The foul-mouthed advisor answered, comparing Reitsu puts this group as one Ajuchasa and 5 Gillians. They exited the small shop as the grunts disappeared to do their jobs. The visors looked up to their captain and the 5th seat, preparing for their battle against the invaders. If I had to make any bets, I put my money on our guys, she said, fully confident in her allies. Our ladies, on the other hand, lack the same kind of strength and experience. Lisa asked, already knowing the answer. Shall we clean the rust off our swords then, Hiyori? The two looked at each other before smirking. Let's see how they do before we rescue them, the tomboy suggested before turning towards Horihime's direction. I'll save the princess, she said before disappearing with her shunpo, leaving Lisa to watch the fight alone. Orihime versus D-Roy. Who are you? Orihime asked as she quickly shifted into her fighting stance while the Shunshunrika swirled around her. Her opponent snickering madly, showing a sadistic delight in the coming fight, or in his mind, his brutal killing of a weak little girl. D-Roy, a Rankar number 16, he yelled out, charging at the bearer maiden with the intent of cutting her down with his hands. No need to introduce yourself, you're going to die. Orihime narrowly dodged the swing and caught his wrist and belt line of his hakama and threw the Rankar into the wall. Koten Sanshun, she yelled out, shooting Tsusabi at the Rankar. The result was the small spirit hitting the Rankar like a baseball. The impact was there, but it didn't pierce his flesh. Tsusabi returned to his master's side while the Rankar got back up. Horihime hit it, but she was starting to get nervous. She still didn't like fighting, performing to be the main healer, and ended up neglecting her training since she and her friends invaded Soul Society. Focus! Tsusabi yelled at her. Our powers are supplied by your will. Now get that fighting spirit. As he said that, the Rankar was getting back up, rubbing his stomach where Subaki hit him. I actually felt that, he said with a grunt. How about I return the favor? He grinned as he unsheathed his blade and charged again. And shitting cushion, Orihime called out, creating her reflective barrier. The moment his blade touched it, the kinetic force was pushed back and he got a small cut on his face. Looks like that works. In time to bring that out. And Koten cushion, she yelled out. She held out her hands as the sprites relined into a sword. She did a few swings and twirls to refamiliarize herself with the blade. Let's try this. She defended as he struck again, only to meet the same result as before. He attacks, she defends. The force is reflected back at him, and he gets injured. After a while, she is exhausted, while he is covered in small cuts and bloodied, but not tired. That's it, he growled, no longer smiling. I'm done playing. He removed the bandages from his right eye and revealed a charging ball of energy. Orihime braced herself, ready to change her sword to a shield when she heard a familiar yell. Don't just stand there, dumbass! She heard Hiyori yell as a sandal flew past her and slammed into D-Roy's face. Then the wizard flew herself appeared in front of the Rankar, who was stumbling back from the unexpected footwear into football fastball, and grabbed her sandal and whacked the Rankar into the air with it. Disregarding the altar hollow for the moment, the monkey girl then turned her attention to Orihime. What the hell, princess? She yelled at the timid barrier maiden. You do realize you're in a street fight with the houses on either side that people live in, correct? She demanded, making Orihime nod like a frightened child. Then move the fight so the others don't get involved. I had it handled, Orihime defended, standing up to the shorter girl, who Hiyori had the nerve to look amused. No, princess, she said as D-Roy reappeared with a powered Zero Blast ready. This is handling it. Hiyori quickly reappeared next to the Rankar with her hollow mask and Zanpakuto out, decapitating D-Roy in an instant. Orihime watched the cold execution in shock and feeling her stomach turn at the killing of something that looked so human. You're still too gentle, too soft. Work on that so you don't burden the rest of your squad. As she gathered up the remains so she could preserve the former Rancor for Kisuke and Maruri's experiments. You're seated, officer. Act like it. She said before disappearing, leaving a stone to hear me just before she vomited up her dinner. Chad versus Edrad. My name is Yasutore Sado. Chad said as he stretched his arm and cracked his knuckles. Fourth seat of Squad 15. You. The larger hollow smiled in anticipation. I'm around car 13. He paused suddenly, almost as if he just considered something. Never mind. It'd be a waste to give my name when I'm just going to kill you, a lowly fourth seat, he said, smirking confidently at Chad. That's rude, but fair, the Fullbringer said before appearing directly in front of the Rancor and slamming his fist into his face. With a rude-sounding crack, he was sent flying into the distance and onto a deserted road. As he was stumbling and rolling, Chad caught up to him and punched his head into the ground, leaving a crater and him embedded into the earth. He groaned as he slowly opened his eyes, only to see a foot stomp on his head. After a few stomps, Chad grabbed the Rankar's ankle, yanked him out of the hole, and slammed him face first, making him bounce off the asphalt before punching him in the chin and sent him flying again. Since I'm going to be killing a lowly Rancor, he said before activating his full bring, the armor covering his arms. The Rancor got up, spitting out a couple of teeth and blood while parts of his mask fragment fell apart. I think I've got to be able to punch through your hero, so shall we try this again? I met a man who said it was a courtesy to give your name before a fight. Very well, awaken. Very well, awaken Volcaniacal, he called out, holding his blade horizontal before turning it into light and shot into the ground. The arena around him erupted into a pillar of flame as bits of magma attached themselves to his arms, reforming into massive arms with protrusions on his shoulder and exhausted holes in the middle of those protrusions. Edrad Leonis, that is the name of the Rancor that will kill you. Yasutora Sato. He saw Chad's shocked expression and chuckled. This is what happens when a Rancor releases their Sanpakto, the Resurrection. We gain back our abilities and our former forms, increasing our power far beyond a Soul Reaper. Chad met his opponent's gaze with a glare. So this is the peak of your power? He asked, surprising the Rancor. Then I suppose I've got nothing to worry about. Chad then charged his arms with Raitsu, taking the form of electricity around his left fist and fire from his right shoulder. Because I haven't reached mine yet. Is this your Shikai? And Edrad asked, clenching his fist in anger at being underestimated. Edrad, I do not have a Zanpakuto, Chad said, pulling his fist back. I'm a Fullbringer. They charged at each other, concentrating Reishi against concentrated fire, and when they met, they exploded fiercely. Intense waves of heat hit Chad constantly, while Edrad's arms slowly cracked and break. Eventually, Chad began to weaken as he felt his flesh burn from the volcanic heat of the Rancor. Something Edrad began to notice. It doesn't matter if you're Soul Reaper or not, he said before punching a tunnel of flames at his opponent. You will still lose here. The fires died to reveal a smoking and badly burned Chad, breathing heavily from his attack. Thank you for the fight, Yasutora Sato. I'll remember you fondly. No, Chad thought in defiance, remembering his promise to his friends. I am the unbreakable shield of the front lines. I protect my friends. He focused on those memories and desires until he exploded, forcing Edrad back from the sheer force. As the dust settled, Chad's right arm resembled the shield and a long spike protruding from his left shoulder. This is the end, Edrad, Chad said before charging at the Rancor again. He raised his arms to block, but the cracks were spreading and bleeding. El Directo, Chad roared as he slammed his right fist against the large white arms and destroying them like loose dry clay and leaving Ezra to be hit with a torrent of energy. The Rancor dropped to his knees as Chad readied the final strike. Electrical Reishi cracking around his fingers of his left hand. La muerte, he whispered as he punched Edrad just below his hollow hole, leaving a skull imprint on the ground behind him. The Rancor coughed up blood as he felt his insides turn to mush, letting out a weak laugh. I'm glad I heard your name, Yasutora Sato, he said before falling dead to the ground. Chad watched his fallen foe for a couple of seconds, offering a solemn prayer to the dead before his squad members recovered the body and took him back to the base. Tatsuki and Nakem, Ishin and Tatsuki watched the two on Rancor as the grunts of their squad went about to minimize the and undo the damage of the fights occurring around them. A series of large flames and different reishi and reitsu colliding with one another gave a sense that the fights began, and some were more questionable than others. Orihime and Chad were holding their own. Uryu seemed to be playing, and he stopped checking on his son, confident that he would be fine. The Hollows made no move to attack the Soul Reapers, focusing on only the secret officers. Tatsuki, you fight the big guy. Ishin ordered the girl, making her look at him cautiously. He's the weaker one. Don't worry, you'll be fine. She was about to say something before deciding to go with her captain's command. Ishin jumped to meet the Rancor on level air to talk better. So, are we exchanging pleasantries before we try to kill each other? The long-faced Hollow smirked, confident that their side would win. I suppose we should give the courtesy before we kill you, he said with a polite little bow that was clearly condescending. I am Xiaolong Kofang, or Arankar 11. Nakame Grindia. 14th, the larger Rancor said in a low tone. Before descending to stand in front of Tatsuki, Ishin turned his attention back to the helmeted Rancor. Captain of Squad 15, Ishin Kurosaki, the captain responded. She's Tatsuki Ariwasa, my fifth seat. So how does this numbering system work? He asked. Given his school, strength, order of creation? Yes, to both. Shao Long responded. The top 10 Rancor, the Spada, are ranked by their power, while the rest are numbered by the order of their creation. He smirked, expanding to crush the captain's will with his statement. Aside from the Spada with us, I'm the strongest Rancor, Ishin responded with a deeply disappointed sigh. Really? That's a bummer, he said with a bored look on his face. I'm going to get Rusty of all I fight are weaklings and do that stupid paperwork. Those weird guys in that mansion were just not the warm-up. He turned his attention to his future daughter and elected to watch her fight. Xiaolong grew furious at the blatant disregard of him as an opponent. You shouldn't have. He started attempting to cut Ishin down from behind, only to feel an elbow knock all the air out of him. I don't need to release my seal against you, he said before knocking the man out with a swift chop to the neck. I'm trying to watch the fight, so shut up. He focused on the battle, the fireball dancing around the large hollow with grace, but it looked like he was outlasting her. Take this! She yelled out, coating her arms in reishi fire that did burn the Rancor, but he powered through it to strike at her. He thrust his palm at her. She twisted out of the way and slammed her elbow into his gut. He stumbled as she flipped to kick him in the face and delivered a fiery fist to her arm. He was enveloped in the purifying flames, and when they faded, he was nowhere to be seen. During the attack, he used his sonito to get behind her and kick her into the ground. She tumbled onto the ground and into the kneeling position, just in time to block another kick. She grunted against the pressure, but she took the small window to calm herself and focused on her power. And this was her first lone life or death struggle, and she refused to fail. She took a breath and flexed her body, releasing a strong pulse of reishi and strengthened the flames in her hands and feet. What the? Nakame asked as he stumbled back. Tatsuki kicked his knee directly in the joint and proceeded to pummel him with her burning hands and feet. Burning assault! She yelled out as she threw her fist out rapidly, creating a snaking path of fire with a small fanning burst with every strike. After a few hundred strikes, he was standing in a daze, drifting between consciousness and Tatsuki panting from exertion, and punched him one more time. Fireball strike! She yelled as she buried her fist in his gut and turned him into a fireball until he was flat on his back, barely alive from the abuse. Behind him was Lisa, who unsheathed her blade. Smash Haguro Tombo. An instant later, a large blade similar to a monk's spade cut off Nakame's head. The blade was as long as his torso, with a staff too long to properly wield in a small space. Lisa was dressed in her sailor outfit and a look of business on her face. My apologies for cutting this short, but the other fights are wrapping up and our sensors recognize another powerful signature coming this way. We need to retrieve as many samples as we can, she explained as Ishin came down. She bowed respectfully to her captain before sealing her sapato and carrying his body away. Tatsuki stared in shock by the ease that Lisa handled the matter and the brutality of killing. Before she became a vicer, Lisa was a lieutenant, Ishin explained to the surprised martial artist. After that, she only grew in strength and ability. Same with Hiyori. In terms of ranks, they should be either third or at most and fifth at least. He spoke with no sense of humor in his tone, letting Tatsuki take in the expectation he made in making her the fifth seat. We're facing war, Tatsuki. Are you ready for that? You can't expect to spare your opponents like before. Uryu versus Ilford. Uryu disappeared in a burst of speed, appearing far ahead of the Rancor and released a barrage of fast but weak arrows. The Rancor dodged the attack and met his opponent in the air, exactly as Uryu wanted. The two enemies glared at each other while standing in the air. The Rancor already unsheathing his blade, while Uryu had his bow at the ready. Uryu Shida, third seed of the squad 15. Uryu said, keeping his calm as he conjured a few bolts. You're for the grants, Arankar 15. The blonde caller replied, I'll be killing you, brother. He readied his blade while Uryu scowled viciously. Do not use such familiar terms with me. He pulled his bow back. It's disgusting. He released the bolts and began to jump around, forcing his opponent to twist, to turn, and block rapidly, almost dizzyingly to keep up with the Quincy. If you want to stand a chance, you have my permission to do whatever Shikai knockoff you want. You want a Rancor? Grans glared at the arrogance of the Quincy, but smirked, believing that Uryu's arrogance will be his undoing. If you're in such a hurry to die, then skewer Del Toro. The hollow called out before armor coated his upper body, looking like a bull's head and torso with long, jagged horns. You'll regret your choice now, brother. He asked, ready to impale Uryu with his horns. Uryu merely raised an eyebrow, confused that this is supposed to intimidate him. Neat, the Quincy said before holding out his bow and shifting it to an intricate design that is unrecognized as a bow, more like a framework for stained glass. He held the bow to his side casually before shaking it slightly. Toro, he called out lazily, making the revolt grit his teeth. You still mock me, he roared as he charged, crossing the distance in an instant. He was fast, but not fast enough. Yes, I do, Uryu said just before twisting around the charge and letting his opponent run off harmlessly. When Yilvold turned, Uryu was goading him on once again. This repeated until he managed to clip the bow with his horns, making the Quincy spin into a collision with the bull until he rolled off a large beast. Not so funny now, eh, brother? He mocked, ignoring a slight pain in his back. Uryu sighted himself and merely continued his actions. He paid for it by getting his weapon clipped again as he spun over the Rancor. He turned back to see Uryu abandon the shield bow for a pair of silver and black rods that gained blades of black and blue reishi. It was then that he recognized what Uryu was doing. During his spins, he shot small arrows into the Rankar's back. Now was time for the next stage. What do you think this is, brother? He yelled in fury. A bullfight, obviously, Uryu said as if it wasn't the natural thing in the world. I've been spending way too much time around Ichigo, he thought as the Ilford made one last charge. That's not funny, he roared, intent on skewering the Quincy that was humiliating him. But before he even got close, Uryu was behind him and his head was no longer attached to his body. Indeed, the Quincy conceded, reattaching the rods to his belt. I was bored from the start. The Rancor fell dead to the ground, and Uryu focused on the two figures still fighting. How long are you going to play, Ichigo? Ichigo versus Grimjaw. The two already began their fight. The moment their introduction between them was over, they were fighting. Ichigo already released his first limiter, and they were only fighting with their martial arts. Grimjaw was a street brawler, hitting hard and hitting fast, and using his ability and instinct. A better street fighter than Ichigo was used to. Nothing he couldn't keep up with. As it was that they were more forgetting a feel of the other's abilities. As Grimjaw felt his fraction drop one by one, he decided to kick it up a notch. Hey, I prefer my fights to be one-on-one, he suddenly said after they separated for a bit. So don't go asking for help. Ichigo matched his opponent's glare with the same intensity. You think I'll need help kicking your ass? He said. Just before they both drew the blades and clashed against each other, sparks flew from their swords as they resumed their battle, the ringing from their blades echoing throughout Kurakata. Grimjaw grew more and more angry with the calm look Ichigo had on his face, like he was in control this entire time, that he wasn't even exerting too much effort, and it was pissing him off. He was a king, the strongest. He knew he made the right call to try to assassinate him, but he was doubting he was capable of doing that. I think that's enough for warm-up, Ichigo said, jumping back and swinging his blade a few times. You going to use that? What did that guy Chad Fought call it? Resurrection? Grimjaw was furious with the casual casual ease Ichigo was taking this, but he had matched that game. Tell you what, you break the second limiter, and maybe I'll let you see mine. He goaded, letting his arrogance get the best of him. Ichigo merely shrugged him. Suit yourself, Ichigo said before appearing before Grimjaw and kicking him in the side of the head. The rancor was sent flying into until Ichigo appeared before him and struck again, repeating the process until it became like a bizarre game of pinball for the hybrid. Eventually, Grimjaw was able to lash out with his blade. Ichigo believed in his defensibility and tried to catch the blade with Hiro protecting him. There was noticeable resistance, but the blade cut through Ichigo's left hand, leaving only his thumb. Ichigo jumped back to assess damage while Grimjaw took pleasure in the small victory. You're powerful, but it looks like I can still cut you, he said with a grin. Despite feeling battered and beaten, he watched in shock as Ichigo regenerated from the dream. Momentary lapses in judgment, Ichigo said, testing his hand. You won't get another chance. Sensei is going to be pissed with me. Grimjaw raised his blade and placed his hand along the midpoint like he was about to claw his sword. You want my resurrection? He asked in a low growl. Fine, grind, pam. A mischievous tone called out. That's enough fun, Grimjaw. Grimjaw froze as he slowly looked behind to see the ever-smiling Gin wearing a new white Shihakusho. I don't believe Aizen gave you permission to launch this attack. Grimjaw was about to say something, but Ichimaru opened his eyes very slightly, freezing both him and Ichigo with a silent intimidation. Though this assault may prove useful yet, it's clear our ranks could use some obedience training, he said, leaving the threat to hang around. Wordlessly, Jin flicked his wrist in the air and opened a garganta. Grimjaw silently went into it while Jin's smile face met Ichigo's scowl before he started laughing. I must admit, Ichigo, it's amusing to see the ever cool Aizen lose to his anger. He's not taking these losses well. Being tricked with a Hyokoku, your growth, and you made expendable soldiers into needed assets by how much his calculations came off. He said, loosening himself in a fit of giggles before stopping suddenly. Remember, he knows how to hurt if needed, he said without his smile as he disappeared through the portal. Ichigo stayed there, watching the double agent fade from this world to the world of hollows. That was unsettling. Urahara Shoten, captain's meeting. In the fights our squad members took part in, we got a better idea of the current strength and abilities of our rancor enemies. Ishin informed his colleagues through a video connection. Ichigo was standing on his side, as was his privilege as the captain commander student. It can be safely assumed that the rancor made from Gideons are well below the average lieutenant. Unfortunately, that may change in the future if Aizen figures out a way to improve them. Well, we can take a look at the possibilities after we get those bodies your team recovered, Urahara informed them, already thinking about the possible experiments to come. Time for the grittier side of science. We are at war. We can set aside and worry about our morals when we are at peace, Yamamoto said, a small tone of awareness bleeding through the strong voice of the commander. Ichigo, join the team in escorting the bodies. You'll be staying in Soul Society for a while. Yes, master, Ichigo said, bowing to his teacher. Can I ask why, though? The time has come for your wedding to Lieutenant Rukia Kuchiki, illustrated guide to Soul Reapers. Post Orihime fight, Leroy was stunned from the sudden sandal slap and was simply standing in daze. Hiyori stood on the other side, ready and waiting. Finish him! A dark, ethereal voice called out. Hiyori summoned her, a hollow mask, and was instantly at Leroy's side, and quickly decapitating him with a swing of her blade. Hiyori's win! Fatality! Orihime was watching from the other side, tears in her eyes. But this was supposed to be my fight! Post-chat fight, and Chad stood over his fallen foe, offering his silent respect. When his phone started vibrating, he checked the caller ID and smiled at his friend's name. He opened the phone, connecting to Keiko. Do it, he said, turning on his phone speaker. Y'all can't handle the mother freaking Chad, Keiko yelled out enthusiastically. Chad's so hot, the volcano's flames can't burn him. How did you even know that? Sada asked, not expecting an answer. Post Ishin, a fight, but not fight. Ishim pulled his elbow back as the Rankar Shalong fell to the ground unconscious. In front of the captain came a small game screen saying 500 XP. You gained a rusty dagger. Ishin looked at the screen for a few seconds before sighing dejectedly. This loot system sucks, he whined. Post-Tusky fight, Nakim was about to stomp on Tusky's head when a wide blade cut him in half horizontally. Surprise spear! Lisa called out with a triumphant smile. It's a spear you didn't know you wanted! She was still smiling as Tusky got up, walked over to the visitor and threw her over her knee before spanking her with a heated palm. This left the visitor a twitching mass on the ground, whether from pain or pleasure was uncertain. Damn kill stealer. Post Uryu fight, Uryu looked over the headless remains of his opponent, deep in contemplative thought, wondering the most damning thought of all time. That's it, he said with finality. I'm having a hamburger for dinner. Post Ichigo fight. Alright, chapter closed. Another author ran out of idea for this one. End of chapter 43.